Okay, good morning. This is Simon with Trade and Perform Coaching. It is Thursday morning, the 26th of March, and we have a gap down, but it's still within the overall range. Okay, so let's do a quick overview of what the market looks like, what we did yesterday, and I'm going to jump into exactly what I'm looking for today in terms of entry, exits, and stops, right? So, okay. First, let's go with the hourly on NQ. And actually, let's go to the 240 on NQ. 240 value. There we go. Okay. So if you look, yes, we are down. But if what we're basically doing, right, is we are re-auctioning parts of this bar. So you can see there's support. Okay. Why am I calling this support, right? So first of all, you can see early on that we initially rejected out of this area right here. We found responsive buyers. So it's pretty basic technical analysis 101. When you have a place where there's a wick on a 240, they came to find the backside of those wicks and they responded off. Therefore, right, we've already responded off of this one, so you can take that one out, right? That's what we did all day yesterday, right? And then, right, so the next area would be this day's high, where these wicks are sitting right in here. It's a general support area. Well, you'll see we're coming right down to 2409.175 to 24.032. So all these guys that do these fair value gaps, where they're looking for the wicks on each side of the hourly bar, they're going to look at that fair value gap and go, oh, well, that's support. That's where we should find responsive buyers. And they may be right. Maybe we get responsive buyers there. And there's two reasons why we're getting responsive buyers. First of all, the market is very well hedged off, right? It's just not free falling down to the downside because when there's a clear and present danger, i.e. the Iranian-US war, there is a reason to hedge off, and it's obviously affecting oil prices and gas prices and all that other stuff. And institutional investors get nervous and they go, oh, I'd rather give up some performance in exchange for limiting my downside risk, because downside, most of these funds are long biased, right? Heavily long biased or mandated long biased. And so what they do is they go and say, okay, well, I'll just protect my downside exposure, which is a reasonable thought or process or idea to have. It's a reasonable thought, idea, or process to have, right? So within that context, right, they buy puts. So when people buy puts, market makers have to offset that, right? And somehow that makes them get long inventory. Don't ask me how. And that's why we're constantly, in a very broad, general way, getting responsive buyers. So when we're coming to support, there's responsive buyers. You don't have to know any of that to know that when we get to the backside test of where they bought or sold previously, they are going to respond, right? And they're going to respond at two areas. They'll respond at the top part of that responsive buying, and then the other area is on the bottom part. And depending on the type of trader you are, you'll like one area better than another, right? Or depending on the type of market we're in, like for example, if we were going up in a bull market, we never get to these downside to break the swing lows. And so the tops of where the prior resistance was becomes support, and that's where everyone steps in because no one can wait for it to get all the way down to the bottom, or it never gets all the way to the bottom, and everyone's hand is effectively forced in that situation. Okay, so that's number one. Okay, that's number one. Number two in that process, if you look at auction market theory, it says areas that are poorly auctioned will get all re-auctioned. And if you look really closely on that bar, you will see this was what the tweet of, hey, I'm thinking about ending the war or 30-day ceasefire, whatever the crap was that they announced, that I wish they just keep behind doors until the deal's done, if there's a deal, right? All the volume dropped off right there. That's where the volume was announced, right? So it would make sense to say, hey, we're probably going to go back and test down to 23,950.75 since we're in a downtrend, right? There doesn't seem to be a lot of support. So you want to mark off 23,950.75 in the corresponding place on ES. And then you can see the volume build. And where there's volume, people like to defend. So what this tells you is in this area here, when we got re-auction, see this whole stick? What all this equals is putting volume in where there was no volume, and we're testing and coming back and re-auctioning the location. Okay, so that's in simple parlance what's going on. Top of balance, right? This is currently acting as short term because we only have 2 days of data, but it's acting as bottom of balance. Really, they had a hard time holding sellers since Monday. Sellers have had a hard time holding underneath 24,268. You can see it in the wicks, right? So somewhere between 24,268 and 24,320, that would be the logical place for the backside test the other way, meaning if we get news, that's likely where we're going. There's now volume in that area. It acted as prior support. So now the logical conclusion is, oh, when we get between 24,240 and 24,320, it'll act as resistance. And so your shorts that set up there, one of those shorts, will probably give you a big rotation back down. How much? Hard to say, but probably will. 100%? No, nothing's 100%, but probably. Okay, probably. And the way that works, so I would have said the same thing here. See this? I would have said when you get to the backside of this area right here, I'm going to make it really big so you can see that white area. I was going to say you're probably going to find responsive sellers. Now, there was news, the market reacted to news, so initially it overshoots it significantly. It was in a thin market, right? Came all the way to the top of that balance area, and then we tried to hold above. You'll notice, right, outside of the initial 3 hours, or excuse me, 240. So 12 hours, right? This covers 12 hours effectively. Let's see. 240 is I forget the math, right? But let's see. 120 would be 2, so 240 is 4. 4, 8, 12 hours, right? Outside of this 12 hours, after this, you'll see the market had a very hard time, right? It was able to close once, it was able to close twice above that level, but then it rejected out of that 24,440, right? So now you have a way of gauging it, right? Which is the important part of this conversation, okay? You have an important way of gauging it. If news comes out or we get a buy response, the initial resistance is going to be over here. Between 24, let's just call it 20, here to get back underneath 24,268, brings us up to 24,440 to 24,500, let's call it, right? And then in order to break out, we're going to have to get above 24,500, hold, and then break higher. And you can see there's a clear line over here in the resistance. Why am I talking about this at all, right? Why am I talking about this at all? Why is it important? Okay, I'm going to tell you why it's important. It is important because you have to have an understanding of where your larger trades can come from, which is the next area I'll be working very hard on, and where your smaller trades are going to come from, right? So see how we're bouncing right off this 24,480? That's because people looked and they said, oh, look, there was sellers here, sellers here. Therefore, the moment it touches that little area, I'm going to be a responsive buyer. And now what we know in this area, right, is generally speaking, from looking at the past evidence, we can travel pretty easily from 480 up to 2400 point range, and we can travel it. Hold on one second. Confirmation. And we can travel it fairly, right, though not completely, easily. Okay? Very, very important to recognize that fact. Okay? So next on that hit parade. Same thing in ES. So now I'm not going to do the full analysis on ES, but you can look and draw the same conclusions. Okay? Let me move this out. Here was the infamous and unfairly traded rip to the upside, right? That's the rip to the upside right there. If you look to the left, this was the top of the consolidation going back to 318 to 319 before we rolled over again, right? That's where people were having a difficult time, right? That's where people were having a difficult time. So now, right, now, if you look at that, okay, if you look at that and you go, okay, people were having a difficult time here, right, rolled all the way up. So now I'm just going to do it quick and you can go through and do it slowly, right? That was the highest close, somewhere between here and here. That served as resistance off the 240, right? Down here, right, prior, the market had a hard time closing below. And you see they tried to do it again and weren't able to, except they were able to move the close down to this and it expanded the range, right? So kind of support became like this. Now we're breaking it again. And where are we coming to? This area right here, when we were down here, this is where the market had a hard, see right now they're holding the bottom of the wicks, right? But the market had a hard time holding, right? Holding below, getting back above, excuse me, until this news announcement, had a hard time getting back above 65, 60, 64, 38. So that's probably, right? All else being equal, that's probably where we're going back to. Do I know it for a fact? No, I don't know it for a fact, but I think, right? That's a fair way to put it. I think we're probably going back there, and that's that. Okay, hold on one second. Interesting. Okay, so that's the story there, and you can see where the balance is. Okay, now let's get to, right? Let's get to what am I actually looking for in terms of trades. Okay, so number one, we're below the 200 5-minute moving average. We're below the 200 1-minute moving average, right? So what happens in bear markets is that bear market rallies can be quite substantial and we're going through a pattern. We're going through 2 or 3 days of balance, and then we're breaking down. And so far, the pattern's been the breakdown or the breakout has come to the downside, not to the upside, right? That's just been the pattern. That's just how it is. Okay. So hold on one sec. So now, right now, when I'm looking for my trade, what trade am I looking for? So I'm going to show you. Okay. First, let's go back to yesterday. And I'm not on the 24 tick, number one. 24 tick worked okay yesterday, but I want to be on the 32 tick, excuse me. Why do I want to be on the 32 tick? Ranges are wider. Okay, so here's my 32 tick chart. All else being equal, I want to enter on a bar with a square on it. Okay, so if I can get this narrower. Okay, it was slow yesterday, right? I want to skip the first half hour so I can observe, right? Higher volatility. So now I've got to have an idea of what I want to do. How do I do that? I want to take squares on the turn and see how profitable they are or are not. So you should be going through double squares, trump single squares, but on the turn is the one place I want to focus, and preferably with 3 bars up or 3 bars down, right? I didn't get a lot of trades in the morning, right? That was trade one. It was worth 2 bars. Let's call that 20 to 30 points max, right? 10, 20, 25, right? It just didn't go very far. But I have to know so I can repeat the behavior, right? Rotation down, square on turn. I got 3 bars down. I can look for square on turn. Again, that one was 20 to 30 points, depending on how you managed it. No short on the turn, right? That no short on the turn that we are trading, right? Or that I'm pointing out here. Rolls all the way down. Nothing is okay. It doesn't have to give you a signal, right? This is not a trade. Why? No 3 bars up, not on the turn, not on the turn, right? So it can be fairly boring. 3 bars up, square on the turn, paid you. This is square on top. It is a double square. I consider it a valid trade, but it's not as good as square on bottom. If you took it, you got paid. This square here paid you. This is your first stop, in my opinion. Why is it the first stop? Because I'm highly unlikely to have covered it for one trade, right? Just unlikely that it happened, right? As you get into 1252, this is your next trade right here, right? Obviously paid you, unless you used a very tight stop, right? But that's the tweezer's bottom there, lifted, right? And that was after 3 bars down. Again, notice how boring this is, right? I'm just mathematically counting. 3 bars down, square on the turn. No square on the turn, right? No 3 bars down. 3 bars down. This is 5 minutes to the close. Nobody took it. And that was the end of the day. Now you can do the same thing on the 24. That's fine. I have no issue with it. Also, I will point out that the delta thrust in a 2-bar combo, when it's stuffed, I'm going to give you some examples of that. Okay. I don't have all the stats on it. Okay. I'm just going to show you what it looks like here. Okay. I need the same rule, 3 bars up, etc., etc., right? Or 3 bars down. So we will go, no, no, no. Let's go backwards here. Three bars down, delta stuff, right? Sorry, I pressed the wrong one, right here. Okay. 3 bars up, delta stuffed. That did not survive a 30-point stop, so that would be a stop. Okay. Delta thrust at the turn. That gave you enough to get a rotation out. Um, doesn't qualify, not 3 bars up. 3 bars down. That was at 8:30. No one would have traded it, right? Again, there's not a billion of them. It just gives you another option to trade. And so I'm pointing them out, right? And then, let's see if we get all the way over here. This gave you, when you get this combination of delta surge and a double square, it quite often leads to a big rotation in the opposite direction. Okay. Let's see if I missed one anywhere in this process. This would have been a stop. Here again, you had to have some kind of bias, but that's fine. It was a stop. It doesn't matter to me. The point is that you're going, I'd really like a short here. How do I get it? Right? So short, long, 2 bars up, no trade. 3 bars up, valid trade. That gave you the big push, right? Delta surge on the turn, delta surge on the turn twice. First one stopped, second one paid. And then on the way down, what you will notice on these delta surges is you get very few 2-bar combos that stop. It can happen, but it's very few. This is in Asia, and it gave you the turn. Okay, that's what I'm looking for there. So delta surges, square on turn, 32 tick until I have proof that the 32 tick's no longer providing me with a few trades that I am looking for. Okay. Now let's go to ES. I am trading the ES 8 tick. Okay. If you need the no supply, no demand and delta surges, I sent it to Ed this morning. I'll post it to everybody. It's this chart book. There's no trader on it. Okay. I'm going to post it in the room. Most of you should be able to get that chart to open. Okay. And what am I looking for on ES? Okay. Well, here's yesterday. I'm going to show you. I know that that is a kaleidoscope of lucky charms, right? I get it. I understand it. No problem. I'm going to look at 9 o'clock. What am I looking for? I am looking for two things. Square on turn, right? If I'm going to make a mistake, I'm going to make it on a square, right? But the other thing I'm looking for quite specifically is a no supply, no demand paired with a delta thrust. There were not a lot of them yesterday, right? So, but when you're getting them, they are giving you quite a significant amount of counter rotation, okay? Delta thrust and no supply, no demand in the same pairing on an 8 tick. I have not looked at the 6 tick at all. I have not looked at the 10 tick, okay? But when you're getting this 2-bar combo pairing, okay, you are getting some pretty darn good rotations. Now you will notice that sometimes it's just the delta surge stuffed the arrow, right? You will notice sometimes it's just a no supply demand and it's getting stuffed, and that's working too. I'm trying to pare down the number of trades I'm taking, not increase the number of trades I'm taking, okay? Pare down, not increase, right? So what that's doing is giving me very good location, okay? It's giving me very good location and not a ton of trades, okay? Hence, why I'm looking at it. It has to be in a 2-bar combo. This was your stop yesterday if you used it, right? The requirement to stay in that trade, if you want to know, oh, and you can limit on this trade almost always. I would not mark it. I would limit entry on this. So that's 3675 in order to stay in the trade. Okay, the low was 6630 and a quarter, but most of the time it's not needing that 10-point stop. So maybe 7 points stop if you want to do the max stop and stay in the trade. About 7 points is doing it, okay? And I'm wanting the whole enchilada, not the portion of the enchilada. I want it all. I want the no supply, no demand paired with the delta thrust, which is the arrows, right? And then I don't care what's on the right side, but if there's an algo that stuffs it, all the better, okay? And then add to that mix, right? Yesterday was pretty devoid on the 8 tick of squares on the turn. Like when you go through yesterday and look, you had a square on the turn here, which was fine, right? Worked out just fine. You had somewhere in here, I think. It was second bar and it was pre-market. Well, I mean, it was 943, but it was second bar. Sorry, I don't know that we got. It was just pretty devoid of squares on the 8 tick. I thought the PA was kind of weird. It was this one right here, 838. That's what I was thinking of. Square on the turn. Okay. Again, if I'm going to make a mistake just randomly, right, and you're trying to control if you're manually trading without auto execution, right, I'm going to use the squares as my entry. Why? Because if I make a square mistake on a square, it's likely to go to profitability, right? There are some that get stuffed immediately, but not a lot of them. I'm going to give you an example. Oh, I think we're going up, right? What am I going to take? Well, if I take this accidentally, even though I don't suggest it, if I going to find a way to get a trade, it's going to be in a square trade. So now the other part, you've got to control yourself if you're trading manually. You've got to control yourself. Like there's no question about it. You must, right? It's not a question of should I or shouldn't I. You must control yourself or you're absolutely toast in this thing. Okay? And so my strong suggestion is that you find a way, right? That you find a way to stay disciplined. If you need the trader assist to enter the trades, anyone in this room can go, hey, Simon, I want to enter on X combo of bars and turn it on and off. And if you have the trader assist, I can set it up for you. It's not a difficulty, right? So if you're still impulsing in on trades, there's no reason for that, meaning impulsing on trades that you have no intention of taking, right? Just talk to me. I will set it up for you so that it is automatic and you can control the rest of the trade. Most people don't have a problem managing the trade once they're in. It's the repetitive, I've gotten frustrated, I'm entering. So stay on process, stay calm. There was plenty of money to be made and you didn't have to make it in the first half hour yesterday. There will be news, right? Trump will be speaking at some point today. I did not look if there's econ because it almost doesn't matter anymore currently, but jobless claim. Trump speaks right at 9 a.m., just FYI. And Trump speaks at the close because now he likes to manipulate the market at the beginning of the day and the end of the day. And that's it. I don't know what else to say about that. Anyone have any questions? I've told you which trades I'm going to take, which is I am looking for delta surge, no supply, no demand, 2-bar combos. They get stuffed on ES, right? I will probably be scaling my first scale I'll probably be using a 7-point stop, a 5-point scale. At 5 points, I will move my stop to -5 on that trade, and I will be targeting 10 to 20 points on ES, depending on where we're at in the cycle. Okay. That's how I'll handle ES. NQ, everyone already knows the process on NQ, so I'll be doing that. And you have all the time in the world. I would not sweat whether you get a trade in the first couple of minutes or not. Just wouldn't even cross my mind to worry about it. Just doesn't matter. That's all there is to it. It just doesn't matter. And I have nothing else to add. And I am primarily looking for my entries on a 32 tick. I just don't want to put that 32 tick off to the right. Okay. It's going to have to get pretty slow for me to go back to the 24. I'd rather have a day where I don't get trades than get chopped up on the 24 tick. Anyone have any questions? Was that a clear explanation of what I'm looking to do today? I am not doing no supply, no demand on NQ right now, Joyce. There is. I can set it up for you later. And I'm using that exact trader. No, do not change unless I say change the trader assist. Do not change it. Leave it on 24 ticks. That has nothing to do with that trader assist, Joyce. Do not change it, please. That's a different program. Just let it run, is what I'm doing. And it looks like we are opening at session lows, not quite at Globex low. Let me spread this 32 tick out. And remember, President Trumper will be speaking this morning, so yeah. The whole point of following the mechanical system is it doesn't matter what you think about the market, right? All you're trying to discern is the places, once you get good at it, when not to trade, essentially, right? That's basically what you are determining in your trading, and that is it, right? Remember, the way we know we're in trend down is we'll usually be below Globex low, below first hour low, and below prior day's low, right? And then when we get stretched too far, we're likely to squeeze back up, right? The pattern has been up until 2 days ago, we've been running up into Trump, right? And I'm sure he's going to say something like, they want to make a deal. They're dying to make a deal, right? And it's kind of becoming the boy who cried wolf story because the market's just not responding to it. And again, you'll know the market's going up. Remember that move, that big move I showed you on the right? That's what we have to clear the day he said we have, a ceasefire, which is not a ceasefire. Apparently, we're still actively bombing the shit out of everyone, which is great. I have no problem with it, but there's no ceasefire, right? So Iran's launching missiles, we're launching missiles. It's a war, right? And everyone clearly thinks we're moving troops over to the Middle East and we're just delaying for 5 days. And that didn't take a rocket scientist to figure out, right? So just go from there. I'm on this chart in terms of looking for my trades, the 32 tick, okay? And I'm doing it after 9 o'clock. And today, since the Trumpers speaking at 9 o'clock, maybe I'll wait till 9:15 or 9:30, right? And again, what happens is we get squeezed up, and then we roll down. The pattern's been it goes through a sideways consolidation up at the top, and then we follow consolidation and roll. That's the current pattern, right? For better or for worse. And then what happens is we go through the opening rotations, right? Everyone sees we gap down, go grab me a bunch of puts, right? And so then as the puts become worthless, right, as the day unwinds, right, think about it if you were trading options, right? We've gapped down. Hey, I'm going to buy me a bunch of puts, right? So if the puts don't go into the money right away, what am I going to do? Well, it can't go any further against me, right? Like let's say I buy the, I'm just gonna make up some BS number, right? But I buy the 65.80 puts, right? Well, out of the money, downside protection, right? So if I want to speculate, I buy the 65.80 puts. So as we approach 65.80, I can't lose, if we're at 65.83, I can't lose more than 4 points. Why wouldn't I buy it? Right? Because if we're not rolling down like I think we would, well, now I have downside protection. I might as well trade against it, right? There's a lot of ways to crack this egg open. That's one of the ways to crack that egg open, right? Same thing on NQ. So we go through the opening rotation and options. People see it gaps down. Get on the computer. Give me X number of ODTE puts for the day, right? Oh, damn, we're not going lower. Well, now I've got downside protection. I can just burn into them. And then you have the other side, right? Guys are going and going, give me the calls. We're gapping down. And then everyone sees the calls are being bought, heavy call buying. I'm in on the long side. The bulls are buying. There's not a rhyme or reason for how it works necessarily, right? It's reading tea leaves, which is fine. Okay. And now everyone's going to be waiting to find out what the Trumper has to say, like it matters. But there you go. He already announced, I got to tell you, and I took a little bit of pleasure in this, probably wrongly, but I was really pissed to see people made so much money off that announcement with the 30-day ceasefire deal, right? That this morning he tweeted out that they're begging for a deal. That's what he said. They're begging for a deal, right? And the market went down after he said it. And I was like, I hope they got freaking screwed on that. Sorry, I know that's wrong, probably, but it really is frustrating to watch people make money like that, you know? Okay, so there's Delta surge, no supply, no demand, stuffed, right? So your tightest stop is obviously 90. If you took that, it's not at the top of the channel either, right? But that is what I am looking for. I just would prefer it to be up here, like over here versus down here. But that is what I'm looking for, right? And then the goal is to scale and trail, right? So you if that were in the right place and it weren't the first thing in the morning, I'd be going, okay, give me my 5 points, right? So if you shorted, it's about 87, I think. Oh no, it's 85, right? So 80, right? 80 is the um, 80 is would be the target, and then at 80 you take half, right? And then you take off the other half, right? That's what you do. And then when you take off, so 80 would be coming up here, right? Or whatever number you want. And when you get 80, right? Then you go, okay, I've got 80. Now you've got 80, I think, right? Now I entered at 85. My stop is 90 on balance if I'm going for the home run grand slam. And if I'm not going for the home run grand slam, I am then going to, say, okay, no problem, right? I'm going to say, okay, no problem. I can take it at 5 or 7 and get my 1-to-1, whatever stop you want to use. But that's how that trade is supposed to work, and it's been working very efficiently. Are there other variations of that trade that work? Yeah. I'm trying to find the one that has the highest win rate, right? And also the fewest trades so that everyone doesn't go on tilt, right? So what's happening is a good number of those are going for a large number of points, right? Like there. If I was looking for long, that's in the right place, right? I use a 7 point stop if I now the last question you have to ask is, do I want to be long? So it's 8:40 in the morning. I don't trade 8:40 in the morning, right? I don't trade 8:40 because I don't need to, right? But if I trade 8:40, the entry was 85.75. The stop, I think, has to be around 7 points. So 85, let's call it 86. You have to have a 79 stop, right? My target, right? My target for getting half the trade off would be, let's see, that was 86, so 91, right? 91 is target one for 5 points. And if I was short and I got that bar, I would cover that trade off. I go, okay, it reversed and went the other way. I may not want to be long, but I'm certainly not going to sit there and go, oh, there's no way that'll work. I already know that has one of the best odds in ES on that ATIC chart of working. I'm betting against the odds. If I say we're going to continue lower, I'd have to know something else. And even if I still wanted to be short, I'd go, I'll just have to wait till it sets up again and goes cleanly, right? That's all you have to do there, and it costs you nothing. You got your 5 points. You can stop now at break even when it reversed, and you don't have to go long, right? Does that make sense as I'm explaining it? Joyce, Nate, is that all? Tasia, whoever else is in the room. By the way, the 1 minute trader starts at 11:30 today. Okay, 11:30 until Monday. And again, I'll go through the stats again on the spreadsheet, but you do not gain a significant edge by trading on, you do not gain a significant edge by trading on, um, the last 2 days of the month with the 1 minute trader. You can turn it off. We have data going back to April that's accurate, right? And going back there, what the data says is there's only one significant day up. Most of them are break even, small up, small down, plus minus $50 per 3 contracts, right? And then, but there's a few of them that are a doozy to the downside, right? So eliminate the downside, right? That's the whole point. Get rid of the highest risk areas. Okay, so here's a perfect example, right? Another example. There's the stuff, not at location. There's the stuff, right? So you entered 86, 91 was your scale. Move your stop from -7 to -5 and trail up. So Nate, Ed, whoever else is listening, Brian, does that all make sense? And I'll obviously get a trader out for that, but I don't have it yet. It's a good trade if you don't freak out, right? There are some stops in there, not a lot. And it can go for a long time. And where the frustration is not from the trade, it's the lack of the trade appearing. And if NQ's wearing you out, give ES a visit. It's working really well. And let the algos handle, my suggestion is you let the algos handle NQ and ES, let that be the playground. Okay. But again, what happens is a lot of protection's being bought, probably rightfully so, right? Market's looking generally kind of weak, right? Okay, so this is weird. What I'm seeing come across the tape is Iran stated its response that acts of aggression and assassination by the enemy must end. Iran's sovereignty over the Strait of Hormuz is its legal right and must be recognized, along with guarantees that the other side's will be commitments will be implemented. It is clear that the U.S. claim of negotiations is merely a third deception project citing a source. That's what that is. So take that for whatever tis worth. I don't know why that's bullish, but there you have it. So somebody said something somewhere. Somehow that was supposed to be seen as bullish. Now some Iran seeks guarantees war will not be repeated. Of course. Yes, no matter what you do, we will never attack you again. How does that work? It's like, no, you've had your ass beat. You're either done or you're not. That's how war generally works. And then we have the Trumper up next. So like I said, you don't get anxious about getting a position. Something's going to come up no matter which way you want to be positioned to get into a trade. That's like all there is to it. And guys on YouTube, thanks